3 weeks into his time at Anvil Ridge Vocational, Kaelen Vance was the perfect picture of an absolute failure. He sat in the back of basic sanitation lectures, took diligent notes on sorting industrial scrap, and existed entirely at the bottom of the academy's social hierarchy as a Tier-E Salvager. When instructors forced the class into 3-mile runs around the cracked asphalt yard, Kaelen deliberately dropped to the back of the pack. He breathed heavily and wiped sweat from his forehead, projecting the image of a weak student on the verge of total collapse. Higher-tier students openly ridiculed his pathetic display. One afternoon, a Tier D sentry student leaned against the barracks and laughed as Kaelen hauled rusted gears toward the sorting sheds, mocking him for taking low-paying sewer jobs just to afford extra nutrient packets before midterms. What the mocking students couldn't see was the reality of Kaelen's physical condition. He gripped the heavy wooden crate so tightly that the edges began splintering under the immense, effortless pressure of his bare hands. Beneath his loose, baggy academy uniform, every muscle fiber in his body was densely packed, honed, and completely rewired. A load that should have broken a standard student's back felt like an empty shoebox in his grip. His entire daytime existence was a meticulously crafted illusion. Kaelen was weaponizing his position at the bottom of the hierarchy, using the Academy's own prejudice to keep his true biological capabilities entirely undetected. Every night while his roommates slept off their fatigue, Kaelen slipped through the broken fences and descended into the dark, labyrinthine sewers of Sector 9. This was a subterranean wasteland, abandoned by normal citizens and entirely unmonitored. Down in the flooded concrete tunnels, he operated as a bottom-feeding scavenger, picking over the massive, 6-legged corpses of grave crawlers left behind by elite hunter guilds. Those high-tier hunting teams operated with massive economic inefficiency. They killed these subterranean beasts solely to harvest their primary etheric cores, leaving highly valuable, biologically dense secondary traits to rot in the stagnant water. Kaelen didn't let those traits go to waste. Using a unique system skill, he dissolved the beast's hardened chitin shell into fine gray dust, extracting a glowing, deep blue crystal fragment from the remains. By consuming the scraps the elite hunters considered worthless, a supposedly weak Tier-E student was directly siphoning the raw, unadulterated power of top-tier anomalies. His system interface initiated a purification sequence, filtering out the biological corruption of the gravecrawler to isolate its raw, mineral-dense traits. Absorbing that purified shard triggered an agonizing biological reaction. The process felt like being crushed in a hydraulic press, his bone marrow expanding and hardening as his body forced itself to assimilate the subterranean beast's anatomy. He endured the sharp, white-hot ache in complete silence, his jaw muscles twitching and teeth gritted fiercely together as his biology violently reorganized itself. This chart shows what that pain bought him. While a standard Level 1 Tier-E student hovers around a baseline stat level of 8, Kaelen's hidden attributes shot past 20, and without gaining a single class level, his raw physical metrics perfectly matched elite Tier-A prodigies. Kaelen had bypassed the rigid laws of his world's progression system. By enduring the agony of assimilation, he was turning his own anatomy into a monstrous biological weapon, one stolen shard at a time. His newly enhanced subterranean perception instantly alerted him to an immediate threat drifting down the dark maintenance shaft. A military patrol drone drifted through the tunnel, running active, sweeping red scans for unauthorized breaches in the sector. In a fraction of a second, Kaelen shifted his physiology. He dropped his shoulders, let his posture slump in exhaustion, and picked up a rusted iron bucket filled with worthless copper wire. The drone's sweeping red light washed directly over his faded uniform and dirty hands, its optical sensors aggressively searching the tunnel for any sign of an anomaly. The machine pinged his student badge, verified him as a compliant, low-threat auxiliary worker, and slowly drifted back up the shaft. He maintained the pathetic, slumped posture, but his eyes were completely dead, cold, and calculating as he watched the patrol unit disappear into the darkness. The authorities were constantly looking for monsters in the subterranean ruins. They had no idea that a heavily armored, biological fortress was walking freely through their own academy halls, hidden perfectly behind a mask of utter weakness.